The far left just basically want to cancel, shame, and humiliate absolutely anybody who disagrees with them about anything. Do you accept that that has become a problem, a stick to beat the party with, which actually really damages them electorally?
No, I think Kamala ran basically the platonic ideal of a non-woke Democratic campaign. She never mentioned race. She never mentioned gender. She never mentioned trans people. She never mentioned pronouns or Latinx or cancel culture. She repeatedly stressed that she was going to represent all Americans. She ran to the right on the issue of the border. She talked about owning a gun. She ran on freedom and patriotism. And so when you put all that stuff together, I simply don't know what people are talking about when they say she's
they're talking about her record.
Those things at all.
In this video, Kulinski slams Piers Morgan for defending Trump. And Kyle just absolutely dismantles Piers' entire narrative that the Democrats are somehow the real threat to free speech. And Piers even tries to paint that the left are these cancel culture obsessed scolds who ruin everything with identity politics. And Kyle just calmly but completely tears that narrative apart. He points out that Kamala ran one of the most centrist, inoffensive campaigns in recent memory and still gets labeled woke just for existing. And Piers even tries to defend Trump's record here, and Kyle will just keep shutting him down time and time again. So make sure to watch till the end to see how Kyle Kulinski slams Piers Morgan for defending Trump.
Oh, hang on, they're talking about her record as vice president of the Biden administration, where they never stopped talking about this stuff for nearly 4 years. So you could pretend when you get the nomination, whoa, I'm a centrist and I'm a gun-toting Rambo, by the way, as well, to all you Second Amendment people. But actually, if you judge her on what she said and did in 4 years, she was a progressive left person. And to pretend otherwise is to just ignore what went on in that period.
What I'm much more concerned about is not Democrats being woke or Democrats censoring speech. I'm much more concerned about Trump's record on those things. So, for example, Trump said he wants to punish flag burning with a year in jail. That's against the First Amendment. He sued CNN for $475 million for calling election denialism the big lie. Before he was president, he sued Bill Maher for $5 million over a joke. He said he wants to open up the libel laws. He called for jailing journalists who report on the Supreme Court abortion ruling early before the decision.
How many of those things did he do in his first term?
Pro-Palestine protesters.
How many of those things did he actually do in his first term? Because it seems to me another problem, and he does this brilliantly, by the way, with the left. He sucks you in because he just shoots from the hip and he says stuff that crosses his mind or whatever. And rather than pick him off on stuff he actually does, you all go completely nuts every time he opens his mouth and says something a bit crazy. And if I was advising the Democrats, I'd be like, stop doing this. You're literally playing into his trap every time you do this. Just pick him off on the stuff he actually does. Then you got a better chance.
All right, I'll do that. Here, ready? He gag ordered the EPA from telling the truth on climate change. That's deeply anti-free speech. He arrested and charged 6 journalists with felony rioting. He did not pardon Assange. He did not pardon Snowden. He did not pardon Daniel Hale. He wanted to invoke the Insurrection Act to deploy the U.S. to deploy our own troops against George Floyd protesters. These are all things that are actually on the record, things he actually did. And the thing that I find incredibly frustrating is that nobody talks about it. Trump magically gets a pass for things he actually did.
He doesn't get
Democrats
a pass.
Get held to a super high standard.
Come on, he doesn't get a pass.
How many times have you heard people say those things I just told you? Wait. What?
Alright, so this is where Kyle just completely goes off at Piers. Piers just tries to downplay Kamala's moderate campaign by dragging in her time as VP, saying she spent 4 years being this loud progressive. But like, even if that were true, Kyle doesn't even take the bait. Instead, he just flips the whole thing and starts listing actual anti-free speech moves made by Trump. And it's not even close. Flag burning. Trump literally said he wants to throw people in jail for it. He sued CNN for nearly $500 million over calling his election lies the big lie. He wanted to open up libel laws so he could just silence critics. And let's not forget, he called for jailing journalists over early reports on the Supreme Court abortion ruling. So when Piers goes, well, how many of those things did he actually do though? Kyle just unloads the whole list of actions there on the record. Gag ordering the EPA on climate change? That's government censorship. Arresting 6 journalists with a felony riot charge? That's just straight up authoritarian. And the wildest part is that he wanted to send US troops against the protesters during the George Floyd uprising using the Insurrection Act.
Well, hang on. Let me answer you. Trump has had the most unrelentingly hostile media from a mainstream media that is largely staffed by liberals. We know this because of the way they all go nuts when their paper wouldn't come out and endorse Kamala, and they all resign, so they reveal their true colours. Cable news the same, MSNBC, CNN, you could fire a harpoon around their newsrooms and you wouldn't hit a conservative, right? So let's just get real about the way mainstream media is made up. I've worked in it. And there are very few conservatives. And that is part of the problem as well. And I just think that ultimately, if the Democrats are going to try and make themselves electable, they've got to move wholesale on now to a far more effective way of campaigning. And it can't just be every time Donald Trump speaks, mass hysteria, shaving your head, going on TikTok and posting videos of yourself screaming and saying you'll never have sex with a Trump supporter again. All this stuff is insane.
How about just telling the truth? Wait. How about just telling the truth? That's a radical idea, right? When was the last time you heard that Trump arrested and charged 6 journalists with felony rioting? Who talked about that? Did CNN talk about that? Did MSNBC talk about that? Did you talk about that? Nobody talks about it. And the fact of the matter is Trump attacks Democrats 4 times as hard as they attack him.
Yeah.
So if anything, the lesson to take away is the opposite. Democrats should get more arrogant, they should get more aggressive, and they should tell the truth more.
Come on, Kyle. You know that would be utter suicide.
No, that's the truth.
You know what? You wouldn't be as good at it as he is, because he does it with humor. You lot all do it with these incredibly straight-faced, virtue signaling, I'm outraged by absolutely everything faces. And it's like, if you all just chilled out a bit, have a bit of Kool-Aid, have a bit of a laugh.
That's why I said Jon Stewart.
Death by mockery. Well, actually, you're right. Jon Stewart gets exactly the right tone. On that, I agree with you.
That's right, yeah.
So here we go again with Piers trying to act like Trump is just a victim of the big bad liberal media. He rambles about how you could fire a harpoon in a newsroom and not hit a conservative. Like, bro, this man really thinks he's making a deep point while ignoring everything Kyle just said. Trump literally arrested journalists. That's not media bias, that's just straight up repression. But instead of engaging with that, Piers just starts ranting about TikTok videos and people shaving their heads. It's like he's describing a Tumblr post from 2016 and pretending it represents the whole Democratic base. And that's when Kyle just hits him with a realist take on this debate. How about just telling the truth? He's like, when was the last time you saw CNN or MSNBC talk about Trump arresting 6 journalists? When did Piers even bring it up? Nobody talks about this stuff. Meanwhile, Trump attacking Democrats 4 times harder than they ever hit back. And somehow the takeaway is that they're the problem. Kyle's saying maybe the left should just stop playing defense and actually push harder. Be more aggressive, be more confident, and just lay out facts. And Piers even tries to lighten it up with a Jon Stewart name drop, like that somehow proves his point. But even he admits Stewart strikes the right tone.
You look at even Matt Gaetz, look at all these people. What's the common theme? They're all good talkers and they're good on telly.
Unqualified.
Whereas if I think, of course, everyone can have their view about their politics, but they are good performers on television. If I try and think of a lot of Democrats in that camp who are good at articulating policy on television, I start to really struggle. I do. I think it's important.
But why are we giving Trump credit for optics right now, Piers? Piers, the thing about all of his picks is that they're virulent neocons. He picked Mike Huckabee, who's an end times fundamentalist Christian, to be ambassador to Israel. This guy thinks the rapture is going to happen and Jesus is going to to come in his lifetime.
You know why he picked
Brian
him?
Hook.
You know why
for
he picked
State
him?
Department.
He picked him because
Trump's a neocon. That's why he picked him.
He picked him because he can. Because he has such a thumping mandate on November the 5th.
But do you criticize that? Do you criticize that, though? Are you against the neocons?
I don't think it's any surprise. It may be a surprise.
He does not have a mandate.
It may
this
be
is the craziest talking point I've heard.
Well, hang on. My point is the Democrats had such a terrible campaign with a terrible candidate. You reap what you sow. You've allowed Trump to do what he wants, right? So I'm afraid.
Do you criticize his neocon
pick?
Do you criticize?
Here's what I think. It doesn't matter what I think because the truth is,
it does. Yes,
Trump,
it does.
Trump was very pro-Israel the first time round. He was always going to be very pro-Israel this time round, and you guys have allowed him to win with a thumping mandate. So the real point of this panel...
He does not have a thumping mandate.
The real point of this blue panel has been for
neocons.
you to show some self-awareness that you've allowed all this to happen. I mean, Nina, I want to come back to you just briefly.
What self-awareness? He's picking neocons. Are you going to criticize
He's
for
picking
it?
them because he's allowed
Criticize him for
to.
it or not?
He can pick
He's
them.
allowed to, but are you against it? Are you against it?
I'm against some of it, yeah.
You have nothing but criticism for Democrats, and you have no smoke for Trump, apparently.
Listen, I regularly criticize Trump.
Two things.
Go ahead.
Right now, do it.
brother.
I would not.
They're bad right now.
Let me answer the question.
Come on, Piers.
I would
Can be
personally
true.
not have picked Matt Gaetz to be the Attorney General pick. I think it's ridiculous, right? I wouldn't.
Two things.
You should call him up and tell him
One.
that. I know you guys talk on the phone.
He won.
I said-
so to the victor,
sorry.
to the victor goes the spoils.
Yes.
We all can agree with that.
Yes.
The man won. The Democrats left the door, the windows open. They
Everything
even opened
open.
the door.
Come
He
in,
has
burglars.
won. However, there is a however to this. Yes, he does get to nominate whoever he wants to nominate in his cabinet. If the Senate is so upset with any of those nominees, then they can reject those nominees. That is likely not going to happen. The other side of this is true that some of the people that he is picking, and let's use Congressman Matt Gaetz for the prime example, he wants a yes man in the Attorney General's office. That is it, because Congressman Matt Gaetz has shown clearly that he will do every single thing that President-elect Donald J. Trump
But
tells
you know what,
him
Nina?
to
I have
do,
one question about that.
regardless.
Okay, I have one question about
Regardless of whether it's right or wrong.
Here's my point about that. Trump's being attacked for choosing loyalists, to which my response would be, should he have actively chosen disloyal people? I mean,
No,
seriously.
I'm not. Listen, I'm not attacking him.
Who
What I
wouldn't, if
am
you're
saying-
president,
No, wait,
pick
wait.
people that might be loyal
I'm not
to you?
attacking him. What
No,
I am
I can
saying
answer
is that
that.
we gotta call this what it is.
Come on, Piers.
I feel like I just lit a
That's
tinder
not why we're
box.
attacking.
Not attacking
That's not
him.
why we're
I
attacking.
said he has every right to pick these people, and we
All right,
have
can I-
every right to weigh in on his picks.
Yeah.
But the Senate has the final.
Okay.
That is true.
say.
And wrapping this up, this last exchange just nails the double standard here. Kyle points out that Trump appointed a literal rapture-believing neocon to be ambassador to Israel. And instead of addressing that, Piers shrugs it off like, well, he won big so he can. Like, that's not an answer. That's just a cop-out. Kyle asks him straight up, are you against it or not? And Piers just said nothing. Just more noise about self-awareness and the left allowing Trump to do what he wants. He claims he criticizes Trump regularly, but he sure had no smoke when it actually counted. Meanwhile, Kyle's the only one calling out both sides with facts and actual substance. Piers just deflects, downplays, and moves the goalposts with all his biases towards Trump clearly showing. And speaking of bias, are you getting tired of getting news from biased news sources? One outlet says one thing and another says the complete opposite? How are you supposed to know what's actually true? That's where ground news comes in. It lets you compare how different media outlets, whether it's left, right, or center, are covering the same story. So you can see the full picture instead of just the echo chamber. And here's the best part. Click the link in the description and get a 40% off the Vantage tier, which gives you even deeper insights in media bias and political trends. So stay informed, think for yourself, and check out ground news in the description down below.